Max Verstappen has just dropped a bombshell on F1 and has publicly insisted he will keep crossing the line racing in Formula 1 if he has to, and suggested those who do not understand do not have the world champion mentality. So, the other better watch out for him in 2025 as he's still on a rampage. But that isn't all, as the team also hit out at the UK press once again. So, after a great start to 2024, Verstappen and Red Bull faced competition from McLaren and Ferrari, with Norris challenging the Dutchman for the driver's title throughout the season. This resulted in on-track incidents in Austria, Austin and Mexico, with Verstappen receiving two 10-second penalties in Mexico City for forcing Norris off the track. Verstappen faced a flood of criticism from McLaren, fans, and the media, adding to the debate about F1's racing rules. However, when asked about his 2024 campaign, Verstappen says he has no regrets since he believes it is vital in Formula 1 to cross the line at times. In an end-of-season interview, Verstappen was reminded of McLaren CEO Zak Brown's comments in Mexico that Max is such an awesome racing driver, I just don't think you need to drive like that. Responding to Brown's comments and the general backlash he faced on his driving behavior, he said, "Yes, but they don't have the world champion mentality. I will always go to the limit to get the most out of every race, and if I have to force it, then that's just how it goes. Sometimes you have to cross a line. Well, I do." When asked if he regretted edging Norris towards the wall in Mexico, he replied, "No, not at all in that race. I think I won points there. So like I said, I will always do everything to get the maximum result for a championship. And of course, sometimes you have to go to the limit or over the limit. And not everyone understands that. Not everyone has that mentality." Verstappen cited the Mexico fiasco and McLaren's half-hearted adoption of team instructions as instances of McLaren's relative lack of expertise in championship competition, claiming Norris might have beaten him to the driver's title if the team had absolutely wasted opportunities. "They've had a very good car this year, but I think it's also clear that they still had a lot to learn, so to speak, to really constantly compete," he said. Of course, they did well for the Constructors' Championship, but they could have prepared much better for the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen went on and called McLaren's in-house Papaya rules terminology for fair racing among teammates nonsense, and said he would order his engineer to shut up if he heard a similar phrase on the radio, especially if a title is on the line like it was this year. McLaren popularized that word at the Italian Grand Prix after Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri locked out the front row, and after Piastri overtook Norris for the lead, the Briton was allowed to battle his teammate again, but under the name Papaya rules. Papaya refers to the hue in which McLaren races, and while it has long been assumed that the name simply means race cleanly and don't touch your teammate, team principal Andrea Stella described it in further depth at the time. He told media at Monza in September, "Our recommendation is always racing with the Papaya rules, whereby, when the car is Papaya, like you are always careful with any other competitor, but if the car is Papaya, you take even extra care. We need to make sure, especially being the car so competitive, that we see the checkered flag and that we try and drive the race in synergy between our two drivers, rather than thinking that my main competitor is my teammate. We try to stay away from this kind of mindset because it's not productive." Verstappen did not see the same benefit in putting an in-house touch on such directives, judging it to be nonsense that added an unwanted label to the situation. Because of the attention the term received following its initial usage, Verstappen feels the team might have tackled their drivers' tight racing issues in a way easier manner. "This is another nonsense quote," Verstappen said when presented with McLaren's in-house term. "Papaya rules, that's totally useless to me. If I heard that from my engineer, I'd tell him to just shut up immediately. What kind of nonsense is this? You're allowed to race is fine, you know. They could have solved this in a way easier and better way as a team. In some ways, Max is obviously right. The drivers know what to do. However, his harsh words and ways haven't always been welcomed, especially by the British media. But Verstappen and Red Bull don't care and had one last message for them before closing off the season. In a Speed Week editorial, Dr. Helmut Marko once again chastised the English media, questioning their driver ratings and their relevance to the championship's quality. Quoting an anti-Max Verstappen bias, Helmut Marko believes Max Verstappen was the finest driver of 2024. At the start of the season, Max Verstappen appeared to be on his way to another championship victory with Red Bull Racing. But in Miami, Lando Norris emerged as a rival thanks to a McLaren improvement package. After 2 years of Verstappen supremacy, many fans and analysts were fascinated by the prospect of a title race down to the wire. But as the season continued, Norris failed to make a strong enough challenge against his rival. Verstappen therefore locked up the title with 2 races remaining. Verstappen was irritated by Norris's effusive backing from British media outlets, accusing them of prejudice against him for having the wrong passport. Dr. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's advisor, has weighed in on the matter once more in his last Speed Week essay of the year, where he breaks down the title fight. Max has matured further this year, Marko said. He was the best mentally, as a driver, and in one-on-one combat, and he has learned to only achieve what is necessary. If anyone had said at the beginning of the year that he would wave Lewis Hamilton and the 2 Ferraris past because he was thinking about the World Championship, that would have been declared nonsense. But he did it because he knows what he has to concentrate on. Marko lauded Verstappen's driver-centric domination in the rainy Brazilian Grand Prix, which he dubbed the World Cup, owing to the pressure on his shoulders. He had already put in a really good performance in 2016 in Interlagos under similar conditions, the advisor reflected. But he made a few mistakes back then. This time, he made no mistakes, and that shows how strong his nerves are. The 17 fastest laps he completed at the end of the race were a psychological humiliation for the competition. He outclassed everyone and proved once again why he is one of the best in the sport. That is our top priority, and his top priority. We are not concerned with the journalists' ratings or any degree of popularity. Rather, Marko and Verstappen are only committed on winning World Championship points, and no other driver could outperform the Dutch champion this year. Marko brings up all of this because he believes it is true that there is not necessarily an objective balance in the English media. This might be due to the novelty of a new challenger. But I think that the phenomenon that always plays a role is that the person who comes on the scene as a new potential star or hunter enjoys more sympathy than the established champion, Marko explained. But Max doesn't care. He always says what he thinks and shows his emotions. And I think that's right. It's safe to say Verstappen, Marko and Red Bull are once again expecting an uphill battle with the English press in 2025. But they seem done with trying to win them over. It is just what it is. And now, they're just focused on creating another rocket ship so good, others won't even think about downplaying Red Bull once again. And Red Bull believes that the 2 key to improving their car is balance, rather than just increasing downforce on the RB21. Eager not to lose again in 2025, the team believes that by determining what occurred with their car this year, it will be able to solve the essential pieces required for a fight back. Helmut Marko said that the thinking has shifted away from just pursuing greater downforce. We know what to do, he explained. This car needs a wider working window so that it doesn't immediately become unbalanced when there are slight temperature fluctuations or minor technical changes. That's exactly what our engineers are working on. 40 points of downforce is good, but 4/10 on the stopwatch is what interests me and the drivers. The handling must be predictable for the driver so that he can build up the necessary confidence. With the field becoming more competitive this year, Red Bull is well aware that the fight in 2025 may be much more difficult if the regulations stay unaltered. I am sure that we will be facing a close battle at the top next year, and that is normal in the last year of a regulation period, he said. The field will be closer together. It is common practice in Formula One to copy successful concepts, and the longer the specifications remain stable, the more similar the cars will become. This automatically increases the level of performance. We will give it our all again next year. There will be some changes in the team, as there have been some departures. But we are well positioned. And I believe that our team is capable of giving Max a car that will enable him to fight for the World Championship again. So, will they be able to fight for both championships again? And could Verstappen perhaps win the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship on his own again? What do you think? And what about the negativity surrounding his driving style? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.